Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Erha, but just to remind you guys, like I said in the previous video, Erha translation will be taken down by the end of March, so feel free to read the translation before it's gone. But yeah, it's no longer being updated, it's up to 160, so I have a link in the description if you want to read ahead, because I probably will not be able to get through all of the chapters before they're taken down. Okay, let's get into it. Chapter 112, Shizun is not to be sullied. He was talking about what Moran had done on the first day of his reborn life, when he was full of resentment. Thinking back to it now, although Rongju had wronged him in the last lifetime, teaming up with Chang Gongzi to scheme against his life, that happened in the past life. The Rongju of this lifetime hadn't yet gone that far with Chang Gongzi, and there really was no way for Moran to explain why he had taken his money and things back then. It was my bad. That being the case, Moran didn't want to fight, only saying, "Everything I took from you that day, I'll give back to you in the future." "How would you do that?" Rongju asked. "Or rather, what good would money and treasures do for me now?" Moran, ... "You can give me back the bracelets and pearls, but what about my life?" "What?" Moran was caught off guard. "Your life?" "Yes, my life!" Rongju's expression clouded over, as if a painful wound in his heart had been touched. "Do you know how I died?" ... He had probably been holding it in for a long time already, and now that the lid was abruptly lifted, the steam beneath burst out in an uncontrollable stream. He continued on, wretchedly. Before Moran could say anything, his expression suddenly one of rage that slowly grew twisted. That Chang guy is ruthless. I had no more value to him once you stopped being into me, so he made up some lies about really truly liking me, but his family objects because I'm just a rent boy in a brothel, not clean, and it'd be best if we stopped seeing each other. I was blind back then, thought his feelings were sincere, that he had no choice, that his parents made him. Bah, I can't believe I actually fell for his rubbish." Moran said, "But what are you blaming me for? Shouldn't you blame the Chang dude?" Rongju snapped angrily. "Why shouldn't I blame you? I had enough saved up to buy my freedom, and you stole it all away. I was too despondent to stay at the brothel any longer, but I couldn't openly leave without money, so I had to secretly run away. If you hadn't stolen everything from me, I wouldn't have ended up like this." "You ran away?" "That's right, I ran away. I ran to his place," Rongju said hatefully. "But that Chang guy wouldn't open the door for me, even while the people sent by the brothel were closing in. All my struggles were useless in the end. I got dragged back there, beat up and tormented, and locked back up." Moran muttered, "But the Chang guy said you went to visit relatives at Butterfly Town and ran into the ghost realm barrier breaking, and that's how you died." "Ha!" There was a thread of mockery on Rongju's androgynous face. "He sure is shameless. Relatives? What relatives could I have at Butterfly Town?" ... "Didn't you say something about living under a knife? Let me tell you what it means to live under a knife." Rongju got more and more worked up, his features almost twisted, and in this moment, he really did look like a vicious ghost. "Let me tell you just how I died. You and all my other dear patrons. Ha! Patrons! I was locked up in the brothel for so long without any food, just being tormented. No one cared if I lived or died. Days passed like that, and I was just about to give up hope when that Chang guy suddenly turned up again, crying and saying that he couldn't let me in that day because his parents were in a bad mood, and he was afraid that they'd have the servants beat me to death if he let me in." Moran shook his head. It was so obviously a lie. "Surely you didn't believe him?" "No." There was a spot of light quivering in Rongju's eyes. "I believed him." Moran, ... "I believed him." Rongju forced out a smile in the midst of all that resentment, the corners of his mouth twisting. "Why wouldn't I? Doubt is the privilege of those who have a way out. What am I but a flesh peddler? I have to believe whatever people throw out, or else I wouldn't be able to even survive." He paused before continuing. "The Chang guy said he'll be true to his word and take me into his home, but that his parents can't accept me just yet, and asked me to go with him to a nearby town and live there for a while first." "Butterfly Town?" "Yes, Butterfly Town." Moran's expression darkened. He already knew where this was going. Sure enough, Rongju continued. "So I happily packed my things, well, Actually, there wasn't really much to pack, since you stole everything I earned selling my body all these years, just on a whim. But that's alright, I thought at the time. I have Changgongzi now. He was silent for a bit, his lips twisting with a snicker, then hatefully spit out the name again. Changgongzi. Did he trick you into going to Butterfly Town and kill you there? No. Rongju wore a savage smile as bitterness flickered in his eyes. It wasn't him that killed me. It was all of you that blocked off my paths one by one until I had no choice but to go with him on that shady venture. It was all of you. It was all of you that killed me. Rongju breathed in and continued. We got to Butterfly Town and I followed the Changai into a large manor. It was quiet and empty inside, and there weren't any servants. He said he hadn't had a chance to decorate yet and told me to stay there and rest for a bit while he goes out to buy some stuff. So I stayed and waited, and then a short while later I asked him to come back, and a short while later I saw him come back with some man. Hearing that, Moran's expression changed abruptly. Did you see that man's face? No, Rongju said. He wore a mask and had a cloak on. I couldn't see his face at all. And then I saw that the Changai kneel in front of him, simpering harder than I even would do while taking gas. He really should have looked in the mirror just then. Disgusting. He told that man I had residual wood elemental spiritual essence or something on me, that I'd been intimate with you before, a good offering, something like that. Who knows? I'm not a cultivator, nor do I want to be one. I don't know what they were talking about. But Moran felt his scalp go numb. It was true that he had been intimate with Rongju before, and so there would be traces of wood elemental spiritual essence remaining in Rongju's body. That fake Gochen was looking for a suitable replacement, and although the lingering spiritual energy would have been very faint, it nevertheless would have been pure, indeed suitable for use in spells. There's not much to say about what happened after that. There was a bone-chilling coldness in Rongju's usually easygoing expression. As Mo Gongzi can see, I died. If it had been the Moran of the past life, or the Moran that had just been reborn, he would have scoffed and mocked. So what if you died? What's that got to do with me? But the current Moran couldn't find it in him to laugh. He did loathe Rongju, and Rongju was unscrupulous, and had even gone so far as to plot against his life in the last lifetime. But although he had been physically intimate with Rongju before, they never once had an open, honest talk. To suddenly hear such plain-spoken admissions from Rongju now, down here in the underworld, Moran felt 100 mixed emotions. He mulled it over and decided that there was no way to sort out all of these countless threads of bygone things. Might as well just let it go. He sighed and said, Rongju, I'm sorry about it all. Rongju had gone his whole life without anyone ever saying sorry to him. Caught off guard, he looked Moran over with wide eyes like he didn't recognize him at all, before saying, Even if you say that, I'm still not going to tell you where the person in the drawing is. Moran said, This has nothing to do with the drawing. Rongju was quiet for a while, with his head lowered. Then he suddenly spoke. Mo Gongzi, did you know Changgongzi was plotting with me to kill you and steal your cultivation? I know. You know? Moran nodded. I know. Rongju stared blankly for a while, then said resentfully, That Changai must have rattled me out. That Changai must have ratted me out. Then his head snapped back up, eyes flickering with hatred. If I'd known things were going to end this way, I should have just listened to him and killed you. At least then I might have had a good life, instead of dying miserably like this. Moran gazed at him. Do you always do whatever other people tell you to do? So what if I do? Rongju said. I just wanted to live a good life. For instance, I sold my body, but what's wrong with that? How is it any different from selling fish or selling meat? It's just a way to make a living. I know all the young masters like yourself look down on me, but that didn't matter. What's the point in things like reputation and dignity? I'd rather have good wine and good meat. That's why, if I could have saved myself by killing you back then, why wouldn't I? Moran's lips moved slightly. He was going to make a retort, but then he remembered what he himself had done in the past life, and found that he couldn't deny what he had said. Rongju spit angrily. People kill animals and eat their flesh in order to live, so what's wrong with killing people in order to live? Moran let out a sigh, asking in a murmur, Is there any meaning in living like that? Seemingly directed at Rongju, but also seemingly directed at his past self, sitting high up on his throne a lifetime ago. I don't know what meaning is, Rongju said without any feeling. I was 16 when I was sold into the brothel, and my first customer was a 50-something cultivator. I don't know what it means for something to have meaning. When I was alive, all I wanted was money. I could buy my freedom if I had money, and then I wouldn't have to bow and simper to other people anymore. But I never got my freedom, even until death, all thanks to you, beasts. Moran said nothing. A long moment passed before he asked, so, if you could do it over, you'd work together with that Chang guy to kill me? That's right. Moran said, all right, then if I could do it over, I'd still turn around and swipe all your money just to screw you over. You... Rongju was so angry that the faint blush on his cheeks from the primula flower seemed even more vivid. His body swayed for a while before slowly calming back down. A few moments passed. Rongju knew he had lost his composure. He reached up to tuck away a few strands of hair, then pulled himself together and schooled his features back into his usual coy smile. But anger flickered still in his gaze. You can say what you want. I have my own way of living. Enjoy your time down here in the underworld, then. Rongju narrowed his eyes. I fully intend to. All I have to do is lie back, and I'll be spared the misery of reincarnation for the rest of eternity. I know what a good deal is. Unlike those idiots in the room, I'm more than willing. Moran's lips tugged into a brief smile. He said, but Rongju, these people work for the 4th Ghost King, so whether you get to live, whether you get to stay, it all hinges on his word. Rongju flinched, then immediately put on his guard, staring at him with those pretty eyes of his. What are you trying to say? Moran didn't really want to keep quarreling with him like this, if not for the situation being what it was. But although Rongju had a docile temper, he was unrelenting once he began to hate someone, so Moran could only maintain his calm as he spoke. You may think the person in the drawing is only average, but I think he's great. Everyone has a different eye for beauty. Who's to say the Ghost King won't take a liking to him? With frigid looks like that, who'd be into him? You never know, Moran said. If the Ghost King liked the soft type, then why didn't he pick you? ... Rongju fell silent, but his expression darkened somewhat. Moran pressed. He has a fierce temper. If he gets picked, he'll probably end up flipping the entire underworld upside down. Then when the time comes to pin the blame, the 4th Ghost King's people definitely won't be let off easy. Some of these soldiers getting executed is a sure thing. If you want to make like a climbing vine, at least make sure the tree you climb is sturdy. If the tree topples over when you've just only crawled around it, losing your support would be the least of your concerns. Chances are you'll get uprooted alongside, and that'll be a soul-scattering kind of end. Rongju's already pale face seemed to blanch even more. But he still insisted, coy yet vicious. I doubt any of that will happen. Moran, ... Mo Gongzi, let's bet on it. I just can't stand to see you being better off than me. A few moments passed in silence, and then Moran suddenly became vicious as well, eyes fixed on Rongju as he said, I'm not betting with you, Rongju. I will rescue this person, but if that's how you want to play, then I'll put my life on the line. Rongju tilted his head back, something flickering in his gaze as his hand shot out abruptly to press against Moran's chest like a serpent strike, the sting of a scorpion. Who is he to you? How long have you been lovers for? Longer than with me? Is he better than me? Is that what he knows more? Is it that he knows more tricks or he cries out prettier? He paused, eyelashes slowly drooping. Mo Gongzi, you're not the kind of luck-struck fool who would risk your life for another. You hold no affection in your heart. You can't fool me. He barely got to finish before Moran pinched his cheek painfully. Moran pulled him off of himself, inky black brows inclined and fire glinting in his eyes. I didn't have a heart before. I do now. Rongju's eyes snapped up, locked into his face. He suddenly noticed that this person was scorching hot and even a little unfamiliar. The person still seemed to be that free and easy Mo Weiyu, but something seemed different about the soul inside. Rongju flinched like he had been burned by this kind of Moran. He wanted to turn and run, but was firmly held in place. And, Moran said, between him and I, from here on out, there will be no impropriety. I respect and love him without a single impure thought. Don't you dare sully him. He shoved Rongju away as he spoke. Rongju knocked into a colonnade, staring incredulously at the person in front of him, too much in disbelief to notice how strangely worded from here on out there will be no impropriety was. If he had his senses then, he would have surely realized the subtle implications behind those words. No impropriety from here on out meant that there once had been impropriety. But Rongju didn't catch that. He isn't your... Rongju said, No, he's my Shizun. Rongju fell silent, but someone like him could always sniff out even the most subtle of sentiments hidden in the words of another, feelings that even Moran himself might not know about, but Rongju could smell it. He was almost certain that Moran loved the person in the portrait. As someone who never could obtain anyone's affections, he felt bitter jealousy at the thought. So even the philandering Mo Gongzi would willingly risk life and limb to save a person. He suddenly wondered, if he had been more sincere towards Mo Gongzi back then, if he had been earnest and wholehearted, then might Moran have also shown him some real, genuine feelings? He was still in the midst of wondering when Moran spoke again in a cold, vicious voice without the slightest hint of jest. Rongju, I will ask you one last time where he is. If you still claim to not know, I'm a cultivator and there are plenty of drugs and spells to make someone talk. And besides, do you think I won't take the plunge and go see the Ghost King myself? Rongju was completely dumbfounded now. I committed all kinds of transgressions in my life, but now I want to lead a proper life. However, if no one will lend me a hand, then I'm still that same Mo Wei Yu, he said softly. Rongju, think it through before you answer. I'm not afraid to die, nor am I afraid of having my soul scattered. If you insist on being obstinate, then I won't hold back either. Neither spoke for a while. They stared each other down, the resolute against the resentful, the unshakable against the unresigned, the fiery against the frosty. Then the ice in Rongju's eyes melted, like he had been defeated by the wildfire in Moran's oppressive gaze. His envy and hatred ran deep, but Moran's obsession was no shallow thing either. In a face-off like that, he was no match for Emperor Ta Xin-jun. Rongju's face was so ashen that even the vibrancy of the primula flower couldn't cover its gauntness, like ruins and wreckage. Why would you go this far for him? He treated me the best, but I tormented him like he was my worst enemy. I owe him. ... I really haven't seen this person, Rongju whispered after a long moment, and then, seeing Moran's expression, slowly added, I'm not lying, but I do know that all the newly captured ghosts are kept in the biggest hall on the east side, separately locked in small cage-like rooms with patrolling guards. You should be able to find him there. Moran wasn't going to wait even a second longer, already turning and rushing off into the night. Rongju stared after him in a daze from where he was rooted in place. Some kind of bitter feeling flooded his chest, and he suddenly yelled toward Moran's back despite himself. Mo Wei Yu, you want to lead a proper life now? Who gets to do that? You and I are both people covered in mud. Neither of us gets a do-over for a proper life. Mo Wei Yu, just you watch. I'm going to live a good life. I'm going to do whatever I have to cling to life. I'll sell my soul, but I'm going to live lavishly even if my whole body rots away. Just you watch. You think you can just wipe off the smell of blood? You wish? The filth's already in your bones. You can go ahead and play at being reformed. We'll see who gets to live a good life. Mo Wei Yu. He yelled until even the back of Moran's silhouette was gone from sight. Only then did he drop into a crouch, hands coming up to cover his face as he choked back his sobs. How come you get to do things over? How come even someone as rotten as you gets to have someone who treats you well? How come? Author's notes. I know you miss Shizun. Shizun comes online next chapter. Yay! And is this not the first time that the novel's title has been flamed? Clutches face. This name sounds naturally cute and doesn't seem to fit the style of the novel. So I'd like to ask for someone's opinion. Should I change it back to this venerable one has been reformed, or just name it Reformed? May you all point the way for this useless one who is bad at naming things. Thank you. I like the name as is, Dumb Husky and his White Cat Shizun. But yeah, to recap chapter 112, Moran and Rongju have a conversation where Moran is interrogating him and asking him if he's seen Chiwaning, and Rongju is just bitter and pretty much just like exhausts all of his grievances on Moran. He tells him about what happened, how he really died. He was actually tricked by Chang Gongzi and was killed as an offering to the fake Gochen. And Moran is like, damn, who is this guy? Why is he going this far? And Moran does feel a little guilty because, you know, he inadvertently, indirectly caused Rongju's demise. But at the same time, he has bigger priorities, namely finding his Shizun, and so he can't really, you know, like bow down and apologize on his knees. He just says, you know, what's done is done. I'm sorry. I know, but we've both done bad things, and you know, if you don't regret what you did, I'm not gonna regret either. And so Rongju finally relents and tells him where the new captured souls are being kept. So Moran is heading over there. So yeah, I don't know. Is that the end for Rongju? Is he just gonna end up staying in the ghost realm, or will he maybe take up Moran's offer? Maybe we'll see him again later. It's interesting that they brought his character back in. Okay, chapter 113, Shizun imprisoned. So, as the author note said in the previous chapter, Shizun makes an appearance again. Finally, it's been a while, Shizun Chuaning. Okay. The largest courtyard on the east side was indeed what Rongju said it would be, with 3 floors in all, room after room. It was the grandest sector, but also the dirtiest and messiest. An old tree drooped by the entrance of the courtyard, and on it sat countless dead crows, each holding a madly spinning eyeball between its beak that surveyed the surroundings for anything out of the ordinary. 2 small groups of patrolling ghost soldiers stomped back and forth, guarding the tributes that were to be given to the 4th Ghost King in offering. Moran hid himself behind a corner, observing the route taken by the ghosts, while sizing up the blind spots around the building. All the lights were on in those small compartment-like rooms. From time to time, the ghosts inside could be heard weeping or sighing, the sounds mingling and overlapping in the night like an eerie elegy echoed from ancient times, making hair stand on end. There were upwards of 300 rooms in there, and the patrol came around every 10 minutes. There was no way he was going to be able to so easily find Chuaning in 10 minutes, not to mention every floor had a guard by the stairs armed with soul-scattering whips and wearing emergency signal whistles around their necks. Moran was fretting anxiously when he spotted a lone ghost approaching from the distance. He was dressed in the same uniform as those guards, with a red-on-black token hanging from his waist. Moran scooted a little more into the shadowed area and watched as he walked past right in front of him, coming to a stop at the foot of the stairs. The ghost exchanged nods with the guard at the stairs. The night was very quiet, so Moran could easily eavesdrop on their conversation.
Chiga, you here to relieve Lao San?
You're almost done on your shift too, right?
I'm still waiting for next shift's guy to come. I'm off as soon as he gets here.
The ghost soldier here to take up his shift went up the stairs. The guard on the first floor yawned in boredom and continued to watch his post in the howling wind. Seeing this exchange, Moran was suddenly struck by a somewhat risky idea. From the distance came 3 sounds of impact. Whack, slam, thud. Caw, caw! Screeched the crows on the branch like they had seen something out of the norm. The guard at the entrance snapped to alertness. Looking around, he saw in the thin layer of hazy fog the silhouette of someone slowly approaching. Once closer, it turned out to be a young man he had never seen before. The guard grew even more wary.
Who are you?
I'm here to relieve you, the person said. The red clouds overhead drifted past, the bright moon above peeking out to illuminate his face, and what a handsome ghost soldier he was. His facial features were straight and even, charming and naturally expressive. This ghost that came to change shifts was none other than Moran. He was decked out in a set of the ghost soldier's armored uniform that he had acquired from God knows where, complete with a black-red token swaying at his waist and an emergency whistle dangling by his chest, reflecting a cold silvery light.
I've never seen you before,
the guard challenged. I'm new. The guard put out a hand, unconvinced.
Token?
Moran untied the token from his waist and handed it over, his expression even and unperturbed despite how tense he actually was inside. Luckily, the guard found nothing strange even after looking the token over several times, front and back, and didn't feel like pressing the matter further, so he clapped him on the shoulder and said,
Then we'll be counting on you for the rest of the night. I'm off.
Have a safe trip home, senior. The ghost cackled a bit, quite pleased by the form of address, and waved his hand.
Good lad, I'll see you around.
Ah, senior, one moment please.
What is it?
The guard turned to look over his shoulder. Moran grinned and very casually asked, How many of the tributes in this batch have the surname Chu? The guard countered cautiously.
Why do you ask?
Just asking around for Sir Chu of Tailwind Hall, Moran said. He had a distant relative come down here recently, but Tailwind Hall couldn't find him, so he was wondering if they might be here. Chu Shun's name carried some weight around these parts as expected. The guard hesitated a bit, but then pointed toward the second floor.
There are 3 people named Chu in the There are 3 people named Chu in the 3 innermost rooms up there. You can go take a look.
Moran smiled brightly and said, Many thanks for the tip, senior.
You're welcome.
Senior was dumb as F.
Matter of course.
That settled, the guard wandered off leisurely, humming a light little tune as he went. He strolled right past the corner without noticing his actual comrade, the one that was supposed to take the next shift, who had been tied up with a binding spell and tossed into a ditch. That poor ghost had been stripped of all his armor and left in only the thin layer of his inner garments. He glared furiously, but was well and thoroughly gagged so that he couldn't make it so much as a single sound, and could do nothing but fume uselessly. Moran didn't trust Rongju to not try and pull something. The unpicked tributes were kept collectively in the side palace with only a blocking barrier outside and no guard, but there might still be patrols. With how much Rongju hates him, he'd definitely tell on him if a patrol were to pass by. There was no time to lose. He had to go fast. Moran stood there for a while and waited for a group of the walking patrols to pass by, then immediately turned and rushed up to the second floor. The guard on the second floor blocked Moran off with his pike.
Halt! What are you here for?
It's my first day as a guard here, on the first floor. The guard furrowed his brows.
Then go to the first floor. What are you doing on my floor?
Moran tried to use Chu Shun as a stepping stone again, but this guard wasn't buying it, and snapped sternly,
So what if it's tailwind halls, Sir Chu? Once a person's in this here palace, they belong to the 4th king. If he wants to rescue his relative, he can go talk to the 4th king himself. Keep me out of it.
Moran grumbled mentally. This guy seemed to be smarter than the one downstairs, but he could only put on a bold front and say, It's not like I'm gonna take him away today, but at least let me take a look and make sure I haven't got the wrong person.
That's easy. Give me the name and I'll look it up. No need for you to go in. ...
Moran was indescribably vexed, but pushed down his anger to say,
Chu Ning. His name is Chu Ning.
The soldier was going to check on the roster, but he set the roster back down as soon as he heard this name. Moran grew worried at his reaction, asking,
What is it? What's the problem?
What's the problem? The guard repeated his question with a sneer before continuing.
You sure don't know your place, new guy. The 4th king came by earlier today to see the beauties, and he's sweet on this Chu Xianjun. If not for the fact that it hadn't yet been 7 days for him, so his 3 souls aren't all here and he can't be taken to the 4th level of hell just yet, he would have been given to the Ghost King this very night. You want him? What do you think the problem is?
Oh no, the 4th Ghost King already found Chu Ning. But also, because Chu Ning looks exactly like Chu Shun, does the Ghost King have the 4th Ghost King have lust after Chu Shun as well?
Huh.
Moran's face was already blue halfway through, and he didn't speak until quite a while after the guard finished talking.
The 4th Ghost King fancies him? So?
Nothing. Never mind then. Sorry to bother. Moran turned around sullenly and took 2 steps down the stairs. Then, before the other could even react, holy weapon Jengui had appeared in his hand as he spun around and wrapped it tightly around the guard's neck. Piercing scarlet flashed through the air. Holy weapons could maim ghosts and gods alike. That guard could only had time to see scarlet willow leaves fly past before his eyes and hear the newcomer say angrily,
What makes you think I wouldn't fight the Ghost King for him?
Before he lost consciousness and crumpled to the floor. Moran lifted his hands and cast a spell to tie him up and seal his lips before kicking him to the side, then ran hurriedly toward the end of the hallway. The 3 rooms at the end of the hall all held souls with the surname Chu. Moran wasn't sure how, but he seemed to know in his heart, so much so that even he himself didn't stop to wonder just why he had such a peculiar feeling before he pushed the door open. He stood in front of the second room, slightly out of breath from how fast he ran. He panted. A strand of inky black hair fell in front of his eyes, but he paid it no mind, eyes fixed inside the room. Everything was just as Rongju said. It was a small room the size of an animal cage, but with drab ashen walls the color of death. But the person inside seemed so very warm, like a flame in the cold, endless white. Not every tribute was tied up, or at least Chu Ning wasn't. Maybe because the 4th king already had his sights set on him and the guards didn't dare displease him. But there was even a snow-white animal pelt on the floor, thick and soft like a layer of fresh snow in the depth of winter. Chu Ning was asleep on the fur rug. He was the kind of person who appeared resolute and undaunted, but was, truthfully, always a little uneasy deep inside. This manifested itself most evidently in his sleep. He always slept curled up, shrinking into himself to be smaller, as if he was trying to keep himself warm, but also as if he was afraid of taking up someone else's space. Like this, he looked frail and a little pitiful. This soul wasn't like the human soul. There was no bloodstains on his handsome face, and the clothes he wore were different too. He was dressed in vibrant red silks the color of sunset, loose-fitting with broad sleeves, and richly patterned with the imagery of coiling dragon and soaring phoenix, of dancing golden butterflies. Moran practically stumbled forward, dropping to his knees next to Chua Ning and reaching out with trembling hands to caress his face. Hua Ning! The utterance that slipped out wasn't Shizun, but the name he had called him by during those final days of his past life. Those twisted days of hatred and entanglement suffused into his very being. He lifted Chuaning into his arms, but it was a while before the drowsy man awakened. When Chuaning opened his eyes, he found himself lying in Moran's embrace. The look of concern on the young man's face, on those features that had yet to fully mature, was an expression the likes of which he had never seen before. He furrowed his brows, thinking that perhaps this was some kind of dream, and after a moment, sighed and closed his eyes once more. Shizun! Someone called by his ear. It wasn't Hua Ning this time. Shizun! Shizun! Chua Ning's phoenix eyes shot open, and although his expression didn't really change, he was betrayed by the minute trembling of his fingertips. In the next instant, Moran took hold of his hand and pressed it against his own face, laughing and crying at the same time until his handsome features were a sorry-looking mess. Shizun! He choked back a sob as he gazed unblinkingly at him, repeating the word over and over like he had forgotten how to say anything else. Shizun! Chua Ning finally came back to his senses, where he was clutched tightly in Moran's arms. Subconsciously feeling that it was improper, he struggled free of Moran and sat up to glare at him. He stared blankly for a long while without a single word, then suddenly flew into a rage. Before Moran could even react, Chua Ning had already jerked his hand away and turned to land a backhanded slap on his face, scowling furiously. You idiot! How did you die too? Moran opened his mouth and was just about to explain when he saw, in the haziness of the moonlight, that beneath all that anger, the eyes under Chua Ning's long lashes were subdued and sorrowful, as if unresigned, as if there was a teariness there that might shatter at the slightest touch. He bit down hard on his lower lip when he finished cursing, forcefully holding back the shameful, humiliating tightness in his throat. There were those who would flaunt the tiniest cut, make sure everyone knew they'd been injured, and then there were those who were too proud to say, who would rather swallow their grievance and suffering, even if it ripped their throats bloody, than to speak a word of it. He never said, so Moran never knew before, but his heart ached terribly now that he knew. He wanted to hold Chua Ning, but Chua Ning pushed him away, voice hoarse as he said, Get the hell out. Chua Ning turned his face away, hiding 1,000 layers of heartbreak under a single layer of stiff coldness. You have some nerve, coming to see me after dying so young. Shizun! Out! Chua Ning's face turned away even more. You're no disciple of mine. I don't take anyone so useless as to end up dead in his prime. Dead in his prime? Moran had originally been feeling dejected, but after being reprimanded by him all seriously like this, he suddenly felt warmth flood his heart like the trickling of spring waters. He raised a hand and clapped his forehead before sliding it down to cover his eyes, and then, unable to help himself, started laughing in a mixture of bitter and sweet and sour. Chua Ning grew even angrier at the light sound of his laughter, whipping his head around to chide sternly. What are you laughing about? You... He made to slap Moran again in a fit of rage, but Moran caught his hand. The young man's gentle eyes blinked, slowly, and then, without saying anything, he solemnly brought Chua Ning's hand to press against his own chest and feel his heartbeat. Author's notes: The Big White Cat is finally released, thanking JJWXC readers. The Big Rescue Canine that failed the passing criteria, thanking JJWXC readers. Okay, so to recap chapter 113, Moran follows Rongju's advice and makes his way to the encampment where the new souls are being collected, and he is able to knock out a guard and steal his clothes and infiltrates the compound. He finds out that Chua Ning is indeed there, and that the fourth Ghost King has already met Chua Ning and has his sights set on him. So he has to break Shizun out pronto, okay? He manages to subdue the guard and goes to check on Shizun, and Shizun wakes up
and thinks that Moran also died. And he's like, you dumb F, you dumb Husky. I climbed thousands of steps and got my knees and hands all bloody and used the rest of my spiritual energy to save you, and you come and die? Man, you're no disciple of mine, useless. And Moran's like, Shizun, wait, I'm alive. Wait, feel my heartbeat. I came back to save you. Ow, Shizun, stop slapping me. So yeah, I'm glad that they left it off at like a comedic endpoint, because the last few chapters have been pretty solemn, pretty serious. And so I'm just so glad that we finally got Moran and Shizun's reunion scene, you know? From here on out, Moran is gonna be the utmost gentleman to Chuan-Ning, and Chuan-Ning is probably gonna get really flustered and surprised and wondering why Moran is acting so nice to him suddenly. And I'm so excited for that. I am so excited for Moran to pamper Chuan-Ning. But yeah, thanks for listening to today's read-along, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!